Welcome to List Off. I'm Nat.
And I'm Ossie. And what are we going to be talking about today?
Today we're going to be talking about our top 5 breakfast cereals. Or is it cereal?
Breakfast cereals?
I think it's a plural when you talk about multiple cereals. Maybe. Cereal or cereals. Either way, you know what we mean.
Yep, cereals. Who's going first? Shall I go first?
You go first.
All right. My number 5 is a bad one, but it's one that I used to really like as a kid because I was allowed it, and because it was a kind of healthy one, I was allowed to put loads of sugar on it.
Okay.
Defeating the point of it. And that was Bran Flakes. Probably the most boring cereal there is. It's like dried leaves, thick leaves, brown. I wouldn't eat it now, no way. But I don't know. When I was a little kid, it was like I was allowed Bran Flakes as much as I wanted, and I could put sugar all over it. So yeah, I kind of rendered it a more exciting cereal.
Where do you stand on something like an all bran?
I've probably never eaten all bran. I mean, like, I just would avoid all healthy options.
Did you I understand, because I'm very much a sugar person as well, so I like a sugar on my cereal, and the ones that don't come with cereal end up with cereal on them.
You mean sugar?
Very much sugar. Sorry, yeah, end up with sugar on them. Very much like they would have done before those kind of things got outlawed a bit, and the adverts would even show like a real liberal sprinkling of sugar on your cereal. For me, it's it's the proper dessert spoon kind of, perhaps heaped with a sugar, just one, but that's the kind of the amount I'd want on
what size spoon do you use to eat a cereal, by the way?
I would have a dessert spoon.
Because I will use a teaspoon
to eat a cereal.
Yeah, I like a small amount.
This is an interesting point, because the other thing I should point out is I will only have milk on it. I'm not someone that messes around with yogurt or something on a cereal.
No.
But I would say that I would have a teaspoon to eat a yogurt, or a petit filou, or some sort of munch bunch milky bar pudding, any of the sort of small puddings, tiny rice puddings. I would use a teaspoon to eat with that. Whereas I know my brother, even if he's having a yogurt, will still have a dessert spoon. And I think that's crazy.
What, like cramming it in there where it doesn't fit?
It's absolutely nuts. Well, I think you can fit it in, but it's almost like you'd be dragging, like it's basically like trawling out the whole thing.
You can't get in the corners or anything. You can't. No.
But yeah, for a cereal, I'd happily have a dessert spoon for cereal.
I think that's normal. I think that's the correct way. I like using the teaspoon.
That's okay. And when you say so, with a teaspoon, what's the ratio of sugar to cereal?
Then, I mean, I think like a heaped teaspoon of sugar for sure, if not more than probably 2. Back in the day.
I would have 1 heaped tablespoon, essentially. Yeah, tablespoon dessert spoon. I would have 1 heaped thing, and I still would if I was having a. But I would say any cereal for me that doesn't come with a sugar coating, will end up with a sugar coating, one way or the other.
All right, let's move on. That's my 5. I'm not proud of it. It's not something I'd eat now. Bran Flakes.
My number 5, you'll be glad to hear, or dismayed, is Bran Flakes.
There's a crossover.
And I think, like, again, I wasn't proud of it, but I would say that I actually find Bran Flakes quite tasty. And spoiler alert, I'd have Bran Flakes, I think, over cornflakes. I don't mind a cornflake, but I'd probably rather have a Bran Flake, because they've sort of got, in some ways, like, it's a bit like your cornflake is your white bread, and your Bran Flakes is your brown bread. There's something, you're getting something out of a Bran Flake that you're perhaps not getting with a cornflake. There is a sort of tastier element to it. But as you say, I like more than splash of milk on my Bran Flakes. I like it to start hard and get soggy. By the time I finish a bowl of cereal, I quite like it soggy. I like to have the best of both worlds. When I start eating it, I like it to be quite crunchy. By the time I finish the bowl, I'm quite happy for it to be soggy and like completely laden in the milk at the bottom. So I probably have a bit more milk than most people.
I have a lot of milk, but I think I like to eat it when it's crunchy, and so a cereal is a race for me. Like it wasn't when I was a kid, but nowadays, if I'm eating cereal and something interrupts me, for instance, like a child that needs something, which always happens, obviously, and they're like, my toast is wrong or whatever, the thing, I need the crust taken, whatever thing it is. Then I'm like stressed, like I'm like, yeah, okay, I will get it for you, but my cereal is getting soft. So yeah, like it's a race to eat it while it's still crispy, and often I'll only pour a small bit of cereal in so that I can be sure I'm going to get it crispy, and then I'll put some more in afterwards.
It's a good, you've got to have a system. I like that. I respect it. As I say, like, yeah, but with the Bran Flake that we discussed, it's very much with sugar on it, like a dessert spoonful of sugar on the, and that's kind of what makes it tasty. It's the sweetness and the kind of branniness. And the reason I asked before about all bran is I kind of have a similar thing like that. All bran gets a bit dusty, is the problem with all bran, but it's essentially a similar taste. And I could do an all bran. Of the healthier end of the cereals, I would say Bran Flakes is king.
Right, my number 4, one I haven't had for quite a while, and I'd forgotten about it, even though it stares at me from the shelf in the supermarket all the time. But I had forgotten about it, and it's Cocoa Shreddies.
Okay.
It has a sort of, how Shreddies have that kind of like slightly malty kind of flavor, that thing with the chocolatey flavor in it. It's got nice. It's got a sort of Malteser-y thing going on. It is a really long time since I've had them, but I'd forgotten that I had them, and I had a whole phase where I was like, "That's my cereal. That's the one." And I've, when I was thinking about this list, I was like, "I'm sure I'm missing one from," and that was it, Cocoa Shreddies. And I'm actually kind of tempted to get some Cocoa Shreddies. Only the worry nowadays, if I eat Cocoa Shreddies, then the kids will want to eat Cocoa Shreddies, and they can't have them because they're bad for them. So that's
right. That's good parenting.
yeah, right. So I could have them and just eat them in the night or something.
I don't know if I've ever had a Cocoa Shreddies. I would say in general, I'm not a massive fan of chocolate cereals.
Right.
Like I'm not a big Cocoa Pop man.
Right.
What was it? Were they Weetos? What were the ones that were like those but chocolatey? Were they Weetos or the ones that had a? And the thing I didn't like about them was they weren't actually chocolatey, or they have a kind of that it's like a kind of idea of chocolate.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's not really.
No.
For me, it's not chocolatey.
Yeah.
But I can understand if you like that chocolatey taste. But general, I've never liked it. Cocoa Pops, all the kind of turns of milk chocolatey. Not really. It's not like chocolate milk or like it turns of. When it used to say turns of milk brown, to me that's correct. Turns of milk brown. It doesn't turn it chocolatey. It turns it brown. It's a bit like the water in the Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory movie, where it's just like
that's
kind of brown water.
Oh no, in the first one. Okay, yeah, gotcha.
Yeah, the first one, it's just like a brown water, and it's like that don't even look that nice.
No, I wouldn't jump into that.
That looks sewagey.
Yeah.
Not a fan of it.
But it's a long time since I've had a Cocoa Shreddy. I might check them out again, but that's my number 4 is Cocoa Shreddies.
It's worth doing it, and if it gets a good review, I might try a chocolate shreddy. So I'll be interested to hear back from you about that. Okay. My number 4 is Frosties. Frosties. So, and what I'd say is that's almost exactly why I put it in that place, because it's better than a brown flake. It's better than a cornflake. It's got the shiny sheen of sugar coating. It's a tasty cereal. I enjoy it when I have it, but it is still one of those things where I'm like a box I'll get occasionally as a kind of, yeah, I'm going to have some Frosties for a week or so. But then after that, I'm all right for a while. You know, I'm like, that'll do me.
So
I enjoy it.
You wouldn't say they're great. You'd say they're good.
They're good. Yeah.
They're good.
Exactly. I'm not a bigger fan of them as Tony is.
No.
Um,
Be fair, it's his job.
Yeah. He's an ambassador.
He's
for
just, yeah, he's a paid endorser of Frosties.
Yeah. We don't even know how much we can take Tony's word from it.
No.
If anything, I'm more of an impartial judge on
Yeah.
Frosty. And I still say they're good.
They're good.
They're good.
Occasionally.
And I think that's fair. Occasionally. I mean, it's a good cereal, Frosties. I would never turn my nose up at a Frosties.
I think we should talk about variety packs at this point. And, you know, when you're a kid or an adult and you get a variety pack, I think Frosties was one of the good ones to go for in a variety pack. That's a good amount of Frosties to have. And if you didn't usually get ones that exciting, it would be like, yeah, Frosties, I'll go for that one.
I think this brings up another good point, though, is that for me, and maybe it's because I'm an adult now, I don't get a variety pack now, specifically because I find the amount insulting.
It's like a half a bowl.
That half a bowl barely covers the bottom of the bowl.
Yeah.
It is like they're kids, but they are great fun things to have as a kid, to have a tiny box.
Yeah.
Great idea of variety pack. I'm a big fan of the concept.
Yeah.
But not so much of the execution of the amount in it. Perhaps they want to do slightly bigger variety packs that are one bowl.
I think it's a problem that goes across all of cereals when you're an adult. Like a packet of cereal, you can eat it in absolutely no time. You know, like the kind of what I used to think of as like a normal size packet of cereal was like 3 days breakfast or something for an adult. It's like, you know, it's just it's they're for kids. Basically, they're for kids, and we shouldn't be eating them.
I mean, the advert of Crunchy Nut Cornflakes always used to be them going back for a second bowl.
Yeah.
But for a kid, I think a bowl of cereal feels like a meal. Whereas for me, I could kind of have a bowl of cereal in quite a sort of generous portion, and I could still have room for a toast.
Yes.
Maybe 2 toasts.
As part of a nutritious breakfast.
Exactly.
That's what it needs to be. Or not nutritious, as the case may be.
Fan of Frosties?
Again, like a bit like what you're saying, but less so. It's like once in a while in a variety pack, you know, nice packaging, nice tiger, you know, with a nice necktie, handkerchief type business going on. You know, I'm all for Frosties, but I'm not gonna. I have a problem with how sweet it makes the milk. You know, like I don't want to drink the milk. I don't want to have the milk after the Frosties are gone. No.
Oh, I quite like that.
Too sweet.
And actually, again, you bring up another good point. In that, one of the things I like about Frosties is I like Tony. I like him. I've got I've got quite a nice tin, which is like a sort of 50s or 60s American era Frosties tin that's designed like the packet of Frosties. So it's often quite nice to pour your Frosties into your Frosties tin. But then I do have a problem that sometimes I don't really want Frosties all the time. So like I get worried about how long I've had the Frosties and there's no longer a sell by date on them.
I think I always have the sense that we really missed out on all the cool mascots that they have in America. You know, your Cap'n Crunch and your, you know, the Lucky Charms guy, and you know, like all the, you know, American cereals just have all these ones, and we got some of them, but weirdly, most of our cereals we don't have them. You know, we've got Coco Monkey, and we've got Tony the Tiger, and Snap Crackle and Pop, and the Honey Monster. But that's about it. You know, like we don't have, most of our cereals don't have them really, and they're not as fun as the American ones. So
exactly, I think that is something we don't do as well as America, and we've got to applaud. the people in the States for that.
Well, it's probably that there's more strict rules on marketing to kids now here, but
yeah, it's not fun though.
It's not
I mean,
fun.
I was a kid once, and I was perfectly happy with these characters.
Yeah. My number 3 is cornflakes. Cornflakes are boring. They get stuck in your teeth.
They do get stuck in your teeth.
But they have just cornflakes with cold milk has a freshness, a crispness to it that I think is unparalleled in the world of cereals. The crunchy cold milk, crunchy cornflakes. It's great. My granddad ate cornflakes. He ate nothing but cornflakes for breakfast, I think. Well, we had some toast as well. But he ate so much cornflakes that he would get me all the, like send off your tokens and get. I remember they did a series of like vintage vans, like Matchbox cars in the 80s, and they were like a Model T Ford van, and then like some other kind of vans, and he was like, these are the vans from my childhood, these are the vehicles, and he got me like a bunch of them by sending off tokens, from the packets. And he's been dead 30 years or something. I mean, I have a fond association with him with cornflakes. My dad eats cornflakes now. My dad gets up and eats cornflakes in the middle of the night. He doesn't. I don't think he eats them for breakfast, but he wakes up. He's always wakes up in the middle of the night, has a bowl of cornflakes, goes back to bed.
Yeah, I think 2 things about that. One, I think that's quite a beautiful story. I think especially there's a connection there about getting your vehicles that are related to his own past to give to a grandson. I think it's a lovely bit of colour. I like that a lot. Very sweet. But I would say if you're going to eat anything in the middle of the night, I couldn't get up and have like a slice of pizza that was left or something. I would say that's sort of the right thing to have. A cereal is the only thing I think I could have if I had to eat something in the middle of the night.
Yeah, I'd probably have a quite plain pita bread in the toaster, but that's just that's that would be my nighttime choice.
And when you say very cold milk, I agree. I want a very cold milk on a cereal. I kind of want a cold milk on anything. I don't really like milk getting anywhere near a room temperature at any point, really. Even though I do drink tea and coffee and things.
Yeah, people who just leave the milk. People who leave the milk sitting out on the side, like, well, we're going to use it again in a minute, and I'm like, I'm not, because it's going to be ruined. Put it back in the fridge, and then I'll get it. I would happily get up and go to the fridge to get colder milk.
And what are you talking about? Is it semi-skimmed, skimmed?
Semi-skimmed. Semi-skimmed. We have whole milk for the kids because it's good for them. I can have whole milk, but it's a bit too tasty for me now. So yeah, green.
Green for me too.
Yeah.
Green is go.
Yeah. The other thing about cornflakes and all these cereals actually is that my grandfather Ted, who he lived in Northampton his whole life, but his father was born in Chicago or in America, because his father, my great grandfather, had emigrated from Northampton to America to make it. But his son eventually moved back after he died and had my grandfather in Northampton. But he had been to school in Chicago with the Kellogg brothers. So,
nice.
Like, I think that was why. I think that to him, I think that was like, well, I'm a Kellogg's man. I'm going to eat Kellogg's cornflakes because,
Too right. Because I think like any connection like that you have with yourself, with any success, I feel like you sort of own it a bit.
Yeah, I don't think they were like friends or even the same age or anything. They might not even have been there at the same time, but it was like, I have a vague connection to that, so I'm gonna stick to it.
I'm gonna support my my boys, the Kellogg's.
No, one of them was a bad guy. You don't want the other one.
And I guess we should point out as well that when you say cornflakes, you're specifically talking about your Kellogg's cornflakes.
I think that goes for all these brands. I'm on brand with them. I'm sure the own brand ones are great. I'm probably never going to find out unless I fall on hard times. It's not somewhere where I go.
I don't want to think about that at the moment.
We'll see how bad things get, but for now, I'm still going with the branded ones.
Yeah, good. It's worth pointing out. My number 3 is Kellogg's Frosted Wheats.
Ooh.
Small shredded wheats with a sugar coating, and it's a thick sugar coating.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, and it feels like a thick sugar coating. Basically, what these were, they kind of went away for a while. They're pretty much exactly the same, I think, as a cereal that was in the kind of late 80s, early 90s called Toppers. Remember Toppers? So it's basically that. They're basically mini shredded wheat with a sugar coating, and they hold the milk really well. Like, I wouldn't want a mini shredded wheat. Like, no, thank you. I wouldn't really want a big shredded wheat. Not into it. Maybe with warm milk, maybe hot milk or something. I don't know. I would never have it, but like, it feels like I wouldn't really. I've had shredded wheat as a kid, but as an adult, the small shredded wheat with the sugar coating is great. It holds milk very well, and it's that kind of thing that it kind of bursts slightly in your mouth with the sugar, so you get a nice sugary, milky taste. Not into shredded wheat. Wouldn't make top 5, top 10. Neither would the just regular ones, but the Kellogg's Frosted Wheats with the sugar coating are particularly nice. One that's kind of similar to this, but is almost like its poor brother. They're quite hard to find, I should say, as well. They're a bit of a rare one. They're worth, like, if you see them, they're worth getting, because they never seem to be in my regular supermarket. What they do have, which is the equivalent that I often go for, is Frosted Shreddies, which is about as close as they get. And I'll often get a Frosted Shreddies, but every time I get them, I know that I want Frosted Wheats, and they don't have them. So I would also say about a Frosted Wheats, a packet of them, you're probably getting 3 bowls, 3.5 bowls, per box.
And being a more obscure cereal, they're probably not available in a giant box, whereas the mainstream ones you can get like absolutely huge, like a kilo of them, in a big supermarket.
Exactly. And you've not had them?
No, I've not had them, and it's been that long since I've had like the kind of small shredded wheat. But I know what you mean about that kind of, like, the milk goes in, but it kind of explodes in your mouth. It kind of releases, and you're like, yeah, it's good, rather than just going soggy,
Yes, it absorbs it. It's a sponge effect rather than one that kind of that weakens it. It absorbs rather than weakens. And that's my number 3.
My number 2 is Crunchy Nut Cornflakes. Crunchy Nut Cornflakes. I ate them for many years. I don't really eat them now that much because, again, they make the milk too sweet for me. They give it a real honey kind of flavor, and I'm not really into that. So I'd say I waste milk with a Crunchy Nut Cornflakes. I waste some milk at the end of that. They also get crazy stuck in your teeth because they're basically cornflakes and little bits of nut. That's all getting crazy stuck in your teeth. I tend to brush my teeth right after breakfast. I don't like having a load of stuff in my teeth at that point. I mean, yeah, you can get it out, but it's I like the flavor. It's great. The crunchiness, great. Very sweet. Milk too sweet, but the stuff in your teeth to me is a bit of a pain. But I just think it's an incredibly decadent breakfast.
I think that's a good bit of advice as well. I've always done that as well. I will not brush my teeth before having cereal. I will wait. And I know, like, it's a thing that often, like, I remember used to, like, see it on dramas and things when you get someone get up and brush their teeth. And I get it, but I always think, you haven't had your breakfast yet.
Yeah, it's crazy.
You want to get rid of all that before you leave the house, and then you're good. That's good. That's you good through to lunch.
If you go to work after eating Crunchy Nut Cornflakes, you're going to be finding bits in your mouth for the entire day, which might keep you going, but it's not. No, that would just annoy me, you know. And I don't really do toothpick. I could get a toothpick and be, but I mean, like, it's a great cereal. It's a fantastic cereal. I might eat it on holiday or something, you know, when I can, you know, just relax about stuff in my teeth. But yeah, it's not what I eat today in the year 2021.
It's I've never been a massive fan of Crunchy Nuts cornflakes. I respect them, and I always felt that they were kind of for adults. And I think I remember always just thinking, oh, I'd rather they were Frosties. And I think that's why I never really got with them.
They're better. You know what? I can eat them dry as well, which I can't say for any other cereal. I can eat them
Mm,
dry. I can just eat them in a packet.
mm.
Like that, they're tasty.
They're probably worth another go, you know. I think there's probably lots of things. And probably, you know, a lot of my taste I kind of settled on when I was a kid.
Oh yeah,
And I
sure.
probably need to give some more time to the Crunchy Nut cornflake. Very much the olives of the breakfast cereal world.
I was just gonna say, I was thinking about how good they are to eat just dry, and I think you could put like a small bowl of them out at a party, and just, you know, like if people are coming around for like a dinner party, you know, you're having a classy dinner party, just have like a bowl of dry Crunchy Nut cornflakes, and see if anyone points it out, or if they're just like, don't mind if I do, you know, like it's a
Nothing so classy like a bowl of Crunchy Nut cornflakes
I'm
dry
telling
on.
you, I reckon I don't mix in posh enough circles, but I reckon that the aristocrats have them as a, you know, before dinner.
No, it makes sense because we know that the ambassadors have Ferrero Rocher
Right.
as their poshest chocolate. And if
That's
that's the poshest chocolate, then that would almost make sense that they could also have a bowl of Crunchy Nut cornflakes, sir.
and the Ferrero Rocher come around after dinner, so the Crunchy Nut cornflakes could be before. Although you'd then be eating dinner, going, I've got something on my teeth. You know, and it might spoil the main.
Yeah,
I don't know.
yeah. Well, I guess that's the other thing. I can imagine Crunchy Nut cornflakes being a good pudding. I guess that's the other thing, that you can sometimes have a cereal, a sweet cereal as a pudding.
Yep.
I wouldn't turn my nose up at it.
What's your number two?
My number two it might be controversial, and I'll tell you why in a minute. I'll tell you what it is. It's Weetabix. Weetabix is my number two, and I would say this because I always have Weetabix in the house. Like it's the cereal that I would feel like I need to have. You know, I need to have some Weetabix on the go. If I've run out of Weetabix and I want a Weetabix, it's like it's awful. But I'd say it's sort of quite a plain, you know, a plain cereal in that regard, and from the much healthier end of it. And yet, I have Weetabix all the time. I'm an adult. I can eat what I like. I'll still eat a Weetabix. And I'd say that for something which is so like we're saying about Bran Flakes, I'd always still have a Weetabix. And if I'm being honest with myself, that just proves that it has to be high because I always want it in the house. It feels like a house necessity on your shopping list to make sure you've always got some Weetabix in. I have two Weetabix.
Having it
Years,
once, put them both in the bowl at the same time.
yeah.
Right.
Never three. Once my mum came to visit, and she had one, and it really bothered me. And also, it also meant that you would never really get to the end of a packet, but you might sometimes go to get a Weetabix and go, oh, so I've got one Weetabix left. It threw out the whole, like the maths of it. You have to have an even number of Weetabix at all time.
Oh,
Having
100%.
one Weetabix was like crazy.
It's like I have the same thing with fish fingers. I make fish fingers for the kids. Sometimes Lily will give them an odd number of fish fingers, and I'm like, no, it has to be dividable by the pack. If it's a 30 pack, the big pack, you're gonna have 10. You know, you can't have 8, 9. Doesn't work. It has to be. Anyway, that's crazy. Same thing with Weetabix. I can see that.
Yeah, so it really threw out the ratio, my Weetabix ratio for weeks and weeks. I think maybe I had to have 3 at one point, or like had to like have one as like a lunch or something to try and just to stop infuriating me for the rest of time.
Yeah, because otherwise it would just carry over to the next pack and the next pack and the next pack.
Forever and ever.
Oh, that's terrible. That is terrible. My number one breakfast cereal, I know it's not on your list because you've already stated you don't like it. It's the Cocoa Pops. The Cocoa Pops, or Cocoa Krispies, or Choco Krispies, as they're known around the world. You know, but Cocoa Pops here and in some random other parts of the world, because we put up a fight in 1998 when they tried to change the name to be the same as everywhere else. People went crazy and they put the name back to Cocoa Pops. But yeah, I love Cocoa Pops. I eat Cocoa Pops all the time. They are not very good for you, but they are not too sweet. They're not too sweet. They make the milk brown, but not too sweet. And I told you I eat fast, so I eat my cereal fast, right? So I'm trying to keep the milk white, you know. So I'm eating fast, and I'm, you know, Cocoa Pops. I eat them at the moment. That's been my go-to breakfast for a long time, and I'm a big fan. The kids aren't allowed them. I transfer them into a unmarked, unbranded box to make them less appealing to the kids. And get away and feel like an idiot. And when I'm buying them in the shop, sometimes the woman in the supermarket is like, "Oh, the kids like Cocoa Pops, don't they?" And I'm like, "Yeah, yep, yep, they do." And I'm torn then between the shame of it being no, it's for me, and then the shame of being like, yes, I give my kids unhealthy cereal. So I really don't know which shame to give into.
Yeah. I understand what you're saying though, because I think my reasons for not being a fan of Cocoa Pops, they're exactly your reasons for liking them. And so I understand. I get that. Like if that's your thing, I get it.
Yeah, I like it crisp, and they're crisp. I like it not making the milk too sweet. They do that. I mean, if you leave them a long time, they will. But I'm not, you know. And yeah, I like chocolate. I like chocolate everything pretty much. I mean, chocolate meat I haven't really got into, but pretty much any other food I like chocolate versions of.
I think for me it was one of those ones where as a kid, like it took me years to learn my lesson that I wasn't really into them, because if I was allowed it, it was like yes, and then I'd have like these bowls where you'd be kind of like going,
yeah. I don't think weirdly I don't think I particularly liked them as a kid. I think it's something I got into later. I think I did like the sweeter ones as a kid, but now I'm grown up. I like the mature the mature flavor of Cocoa Pops. Yeah.
And Cocoa Monkey as a mascot?
I'm fine with him. And there's a whole, I mean, I was reading about it. There's a whole character. All the characters have names. One of them's got a funny name, actually. Let me just check the name. Osmelda Ostrich. Osmelda Ostrich.
It's a crazy name. But again, I know exactly who you mean.
Shorty Giraffe, Alan Anteater, Hefty Hippo, Osmelda Ostrich, Kylie Kangaroo, Rocky Raccoon, and then his enemies are Crafty Croc and the Gorillas. How about that? But yeah,
it's a whole Jungle Book of Cocoa Pop related characters.
Yeah.
But you say those characters, and even though you're not familiar with the names, I know exactly what they look like. That's imprinted on me from the ads.
Yeah. Now that's my number one is Cocoa Pops. So I would rather have a bowl of Cocoa Pops than any other cereal, just like it says.
My number one, I guess, is kind of controversial in a way because it's recently seems to be completely discontinued. Is the Ricicles, and it's much missed. And I'd pour out some milk for the Ricicles right now because it really does feel like the fallen brother of the cereals. There's an empty space, an obvious empty space, and I imagine little kids now must be almost inventing Ricicles every week in the supermarket, thinking, "You've got your Frosties, you got your Rice Krispies. They must be. It's like an obvious gap. It's an obvious gap. I don't even think they appear in the variety packs anymore.
No,
But for a while, they were kind of on the variety pack.
the variety packs have a lot less variety in them because, you know, when I was a kid, they had 8 cereals in the variety pack, but you'd get like a special K in the variety pack, you know?
Oh,
You'd get some
no.
weird ones in there, but I think you might get one duplicate, but now if you get a variety pack, I think you get 3 or 6 or 8, but there's 2 of each, you know? There's just no variety. They're just like cornflakes, Frosties, Cocoa Pops, and Rice Krispies. It's not what it was.
But I really missed, and they were, and it's not just saying that because they're gone. They were my favorite. They were my go-to, and for a while when they seemed to be in fewer and fewer supermarkets, I'd seek them out. I'd try and find places that had them. Try to support it, but it's and in some ways we didn't discuss this earlier whether we're allowed to have discontinued cereals, but it is my favorite. Always was. And it is. I find it really sad that I can't get like. I find it a real like, what? So I can never have Ricicles anymore. There's a grief to it. There's a grief element that we never get to have that anymore, right? That's the deal, is it?
Does anyone do a knockoff, like an own brand version?
Not it's like the own brand ones almost just follow suit. I mean, they could probably clean up at the minute with me if someone wanted to do their own brand Ricicles.
Yeah, you'd be straight down to Asda if they did one.
I'd also say a Ricicles is a better sugar Rice Krispie than Frosties is a sugared cornflake. I prefer them to a much higher degree. I find them so tasty and so like almost like there's something about it. I guess that shape or something of the kind of puffed rice is something that's really like it does it for me. I'm really kind of holds the sugar well and everything. It's really they really were a treat. I could have them dry. I could have them for pudding. I could have them anytime. I love the rice. I really do. And it's like they would be my number one. Yeah, it's not like I'm not being it's not the grass is greener element.
No.
Like if they were still everywhere, they'd still be number one for me.
I didn't even realize really that they'd been gone, but I know it's a very long time since I've had them. I never was crazy into them, but I enjoyed them in a variety pack. They were an exciting box in a variety pack for sure. Oh, that's sad.
It is sad. It is.
Sorry
sad.
for your loss, man.
Thank you. Being still quite new.
Yeah, we're quite raw.
Still quite raw.
Yeah. What about things that didn't make? I'm surprised. There's one that I thought you were going to have.
Mm-hmm.
Where are Sugar Puffs?
You know what? Not a big fan of Sugar Puffs.
Oh man!
Despite the routines and everything, I'm not a big Sugar Puff fan.
So you've been doing Sugar Puff jokes in the comedy routines for some years.
Yeah.
No audience.
Personal routine, though. It's not a personal routine. It's not. I'm not lying to anyone. It's not something. I'm not saying, oh yeah, I love Sugar Puffs. It's very specifically saying it's not me who's talking about Sugar Puffs in it. I'm not a big fan. I like Honey Monster as a mascot.
Yeah,
he's a great mascot. Also, it's probably worth mentioning Rick Rice, of course, the astronaut for Ricicles at this point. But yeah, I'd say Honey Monster is probably almost the crown jewels of British breakfast cereal mascots.
Yeah,
he's got something that's he's both like there's something quite he's very 70s. He's very kind of British 70s, but he also crosses over into like there's something a bit kind of punk music. He's sort of early 70s. He sort of transcends the whole 70s. He's got something like an ethos to him that is quite kind of punk and quite hard. He's like
I'm not sure I'd say punk, but maybe like Slade. Like Something.
Well, that's very much of that kind of.
Yeah.
He's kind of There's a hard driving kind of rock sound, but it's a poppy element to it as well. It's a kind of it's got a pop sensibility to it.
Yeah.
And that's exactly. If Honey Monster was a band, he'd be Slade.
Yeah, I think that's right. Any others that you deserve a mention?
Well, the other thing that I keep in the house, and I probably would have been tempted to put on, is that if I want a hot cereal, which is rare, I do try and keep porridge in the house of some sort. And so I was almost tempted to say porridge. I mean, with porridge, I'm probably like if I'll probably try and heap that sugar to as high as I can heap it to put on some porridge. But I think a really sugared porridge is really nice. And for that, it's almost harder because then you're getting into kind of, if I'm having a porridge, I will go Quaker or even like an Oat So Simple kind of thing. And if it's Oat So Simple, I go plain and I add the sugar myself. I don't really go, I know when I was doing like the Edinburgh Festival, I might go honey then. And then I know I can just kind of shovel it in. I quite like a ready breck. I quite like a ready breck or and then it was just that. It was more that porridge comes with its own kind of. Oat So Simple is probably closer to a cereal brand than your Quakers are. And then it gets into, I definitely say porridge is a cereal, but then it's probably too difficult to break down into various subsets of what is the correct cereal version of it. The ready breck's almost like a powdered porridge. So I left it out more because it's kind of, it brings up more questions than it answers. And I thought, I'll leave porridge, but it is something that I like to keep in the house. And I will sometimes go, porridge.
I've cooked a lot of porridge in the last 5 years with banana. I can't stand it. I don't like bananas either. So when I try some to check the temperature or to check how it is, it's gross. And I feel I've made a lot of porridge, but nothing about making 5 years of porridge has made me want to eat porridge. Not a fan. And how about muesli, granola? No, none of that.
Not at all. Muesli it looks so unappetizing and unappealing. It's sort of dusty raisins. I've got no time for it. Even though it's basically your oats, isn't it, from your porridge? But just with milk poured on it. It's like someone couldn't be bothered to do a porridge. It's like it feels like the kind of thing that would come out if Mr. Bean tried to make porridge. It'd be like a muesli or something, and he'd be like,
We have a lot of muesli, granola, all that stuff in the house, but none of it gets eaten by me. It's a pretty ridiculous scene, one of us eating muesli with seeds and like flax seeds and all that stuff, and me sitting down to my Cocoa Pops. But that's just how it is.
Any other honorable mentions for you?
No, I think it just does bear saying that I think if we were grown up in America, we would have a way more exciting list of mascot-based ones with bits of sweets left in there, and in the American, we're basically taking a relatively unhealthy options from the British selection, but there's so many more unhealthy options available in America that
For a while, Ricicles did the ones where they could have the kind of what they describe as like marshmallow planets, and they weren't marshmallows; they were like a harder candy.
Yeah,
and I wasn't really into it.
No,
they were fine as a one-off, a kind of a bit of a thing, but I'd much rather just have the plain Ricicles.
Those things in Lucky Charms or anything, to me, they're like if you eat the decorations off the top of a cake.
Yes.
They're not very nice.
Very much, 100%.
All right, then. That's our breakfast cereals.
We're going to be doing more top fives in the future. Ozzy, where can people keep up with us?
You can subscribe on YouTube. You can subscribe to the podcast version if you don't want to see us. Fair enough. And please, you can find us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, but please let us know what your favorite top 5 cereals are and how bad
why don't you add your own lists on when you give us a 5-star review on iTunes? You can then write your own lists of things you might like us to do, or your own top 5s of any of the lists we've already given.
For sure. And yeah, or just to tell us how terrible our choices are and how we all should have had like honey nut loops, you know, with the bump.
I'm happy with my choices.
All right, we'll see you next time.
See you later.